We are close to, oh my gosh, there's two more. We are close to quorum, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. If you are using the link that I provided this afternoon, I did not realize it was the link I had registered as, so you will come up as my name. If you could follow these instructions, that would be helpful, please. If you click on your photo in the upper right-hand corner, there will be three little dots. If you click on those three dots at the very bottom, there's an option that says rename. And Jerry, isn't your name with a G?
Yes, it is.
We need to fix that. Tyler, can you help me with that? There we go. Thank you.
There it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Everyone, thank you
See
for
the
joining
power
us.
you hold, Kelly? That's why people want to be you.
I was under the impression being Kelly is the best place to be.
That's right.
Madam Chair, I'm pretty sure you have a quorum.
That's why I've been putting it on social media anyways. Hey, thank you. All right.
I'm going to go through these instructions one more time very quickly. My apologies. If you use the link I just sent out today with the additional materials, that was my personal registration link. So you were coming up under my name. To rename yourself, if you click on your photo that you see on the Zoom, there will be three little dots in the upper right-hand corner. If you click once on the three little dots, your very last option in that list is rename. If you could please rename and put your name in there, that would be great. Okay, and with that, Madam Chair, we have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, members of the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council. This meeting is now called to order. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube as a way for members of the public to participate. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. I will ask that you keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking. We will now begin the meeting with roll call of all members. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Celeste Adams.
Here.
Thank you. Zach Altman.
Here, I'm trying to figure out how to rename myself.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Lupe Bendine. Present.
Here,
Emily,
present.
Thank you. Emily Karen. Patricia Abeda Young on behalf of Jenny Chavez.
Here.
Thank you. Joshua Clark.
Here.
Thank you. Allie Klein. Jerry Friedel.
Here.
Jerry, thank you, Jerry. Cindy Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Laura Gill.
Here.
Thank you. Christy Hahn McDonald.
Present.
Thank you. Elizabeth Herbert. Samantha Hinchy.
Present.
Thank you. Burdetta Hodge. Mary Lynn Kasanick.
Here.
Thank you. Patricia Clark.
Present.
Thank you. Sherry Loretano. Andrew Lefevre.
Present via Zoom.
Thank you. Brandy Datcher on behalf of Kevin Mattingly. Anita Norton.
Present.
Thank you. Amy Offenberg.
Here.
Thank you. Carol Park Aiden.
Here.
Thank you. Kristen Charlau.
Here.
Thank you. Melissa Thomas.
Here.
Thank you. Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Christine Ellis.
Here.
Thank you. And Madam Chair DC Ernst.
Present and accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. Members of the public can submit written comments via MAG website up to 2 hours prior to the meeting. Kelly, do we have
Madam Chair, we did have several written
Any written
comments.
comments for this item?
Madam Chair, we did have several written comments for today's agenda. They were sent out to membership ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next item is the approval of the February 1st, 2023 meeting minutes. Does any members of the council have any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So
I'll
moved.
move.
Excellent. So we have a motion from Jerry and a second from Vice Chair Councilmember Ellis. Members participating online, will you take a moment? Sorry, let me start again. Members participating online will now take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and muting their audios. And unmuting their cameras, we will conduct a roll call vote. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. We'll give you a moment to turn on your video and your audio. Can I have a voice vote for members? In favor, say aye.
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 And those opposed, say nay. Kelly, can you take a roll call of any members participating virtually who did not participate in the voice vote?
I sure can. Thank you, Madam Chair. Patricia Aveda Young on behalf of Jenny Chavez.
Here.
Carol Park Aiden. Zach Altman.
Aye.
Thank you. Christy Hahn McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Kelly. All right. Next item will be an update on DES's Abuse in Later Life Grant by Jody Hector. Jody, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I do have a few updates for you today. The grant is currently working in a 12-month no-cost extension period in order to spend down the remaining funds until September 30th of 2024. We are waiting for the 2024 solicitation of the Abuse in Later Life Grant application so we can apply for a continuation grant. So as soon as that comes out, we will apply and submit that application. And I believe it's 3 more years if we are awarded. Next, we submitted a GAM, which is a budget modification. So the remaining year, we moved the remaining funds into the operating services. So we have about $100 left until that GAM is approved. We submitted that in December. It's taking a while, so I'm hopeful that it will be approved in the next week or so. And once approved, we will put that into the Dove's mobile advocacy staff's budget so they can continue to support victims of late life abuse with the remaining grant funds. So hopefully that happens very soon. In the meantime, when victims need a hotel or shelter and they reach out to the senior helpline, the mobile advocacy staff with Dove's, they'll call Safe DVS or the DV Stop program to place survivors in a shelter or a hotel. Next, we created 2 subcommittees as part of the CCRT through the grant, and one is on housing options, and the other one is called Faith-Based Support Group for Victims 50+. We met on February 18th, and we worked on creating a brochure, a bookmark, and a letter to faith-based leaders that I sent to OVW for approval. So once approved, we'll be able to share those materials and resources related to elder abuse with faith-based leaders and communities. We recently learned about a faith and community roundtable that meets in Goodyear monthly. So I will attend the next meeting, and our goal is to network with those who may be interested in learning more about elder abuse and the resources that are available to faith-based communities and older victims. So the goal of the subcommittee is to find and collaborate with faith-based leaders and communities, because data shows that this is where many older victims reach out and share their stories and ask for help. So if we can get the materials and resources into communities where the older victims seek assistance, we can help more survivors. So if you know of any other communities, faith-based leaders, or cities that are discussing similar topics and meeting regularly, please let us know so we can reach out to them. Lastly, I would like to share some data. This is the latest data for the direct services from September of 2022 to December of 23. So I'm going to go over these slides quickly. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I can answer them, or you can wait until the end. And Kelly said she had shared a PDF of this data with all of you as well. So let me share my screen. It looks a little different. So let me see if I can figure this out, Kelly. Hold on a second. There we go. All right. Kelly, is it good?
Looks great. Thanks,
Good,
Judy.
perfect. It's hard, it's so hard when you're on the same screen. All these things pop up. Okay, so there are 7 slides. So the first slide is just the total number of victims and nights in a hotel. So as you can see, there were 58 victims served or partially served. Partially served means they may not have stayed in a hotel, but they may have received transportation or a gift card for food or clothing or something like that. And then there were 580 nights total in hotel rooms. And as you can see with the blue at the bottom, there were 26 victims from July to December of 23, which is 45% of the total just in the last reporting period. And 580 nights total in hotel rooms. So we had a big burst of survivors in the last reporting period. This is the data that was shared with OVW. We also have to gather data on the type of abuse. So the total, the domestic violence and sexual violence was 72% of the survivors fell into the DV or SV category. There were 5 stalking, and then 9 victims were considered elder abuse. We also collect data on the relationship to the offender. So most of the survivors, there were 31, which is 53%, were abused by their current or former spouse or intimate partner. And then the next highest category was other family or household members. We also collect data on the age, and most of the survivors, 36 out of the 58, were between the ages of 50 and 59. This is something we collect the housing status prior to referral. This is something we started collecting just because we wanted to know where they were prior to calling the senior helpline and requesting help. So 44.8% were either homeless, in a shelter, or in a hospital prior to referral. Oh. Is that a question or just somebody's mic? Okay.
It was background noise. You're fine, Judy. Thank you.
Okay, good. And then we also keep track of the housing outcomes. So what happens after the hotel stay? So there's lots of different choices. So they either they go back to the shelter, some stay in a hotel, some moved out of state or into a home with families or friends. 7 survivors were unknown. We didn't keep track. We couldn't figure out where they went. 10% went to transitional housing or senior housing. 9% to an apartment or shared housing. 7% went back to the streets or were homeless. And then 3.4% were back home to the abuser. But over on the right, I was all excited. So 33% relocated to an apartment, transitional housing, or out of state with family or friends. So this is a big uptick in the data since we transitioned from the housing specialist to the Doves mobile advocacy staff. So I was really excited about this data because that's about 1/3 of the survivors found a safe place to go, a more permanent solution. So to me, that was exciting. So thank you, Dove's mobile advocacy staff. You guys are doing a great job. And then the last slide is the summary of costs. So just overall, the total spent on emergency funds, which includes hotels, food, clothing, incidentals, and transportation, is $70,656.23. So we're hoping to put about $20,000 more, the remaining funds, into Doves and continue till September of 2024. And that is all I have. Are there any questions? There's a lot of data, so you have the spreadsheet if you have any questions or if you'd like to look at it in more detail.
Thank you, Jody. This is DC. I did have a couple of questions. Let me go back and find them.
Okay.
For the information on the faith-based communities, is it possible to share out with the faith community so we can send that to individuals that we know who may be interested? And I got a yes on that, so that's awesome. Seems like I had another one. Oh, on the first slide where you showed that there was an increase in from July to December.
Yes.
Do you know what caused that increase as far as was there more advertising? Was there additional services or resources out there that caused that jump, that you can relate to that jump in requests for services?
So basically, holidays. So November and December, there was 4 in November, 8 victims in December. It seems like there's always a lot during that time. And then summertime as well, right? So July and August. And then the transition from the housing specialist to the calls going directly to the Dove's mobile advocacy staff. I think that was also a reason that we were able to help more people because they were going directly to the Dove's staff. So they were, there was no like in-between person. So I really feel like, and plus, the word is out, people are reaching out more. I'm getting emails, I'm forwarding it to the staff. So I feel like it just took a while for people to know that there were those resources out there.
Thank you. One other question regarding the type of abuse, 16% elder abuse, that's not related to domestic violence?
Well, those were considered elder abuse because they were like financial exploitation. I think a few of them were like abuse in the home by family members, grandchildren, things like that. So, but they were in the elder abuse category.
Okay.
Mary Lynn?
Yeah, we a lot of times, distinguish between domestic violence and elder abuse. Domestic violence is usually considered abuse between intimate partners. And so there's, love, sexual relations, whatever it might be. And yet, in the case of elder abuse, it's usually that an older person is not in an intimate relationship with someone, but they're dependent upon them for their care. It might be a son or daughter that is taking advantage of them. It could be verbal abuse. It could be physical assault. It could even be a grandson who's sexually assaulting his grandmother. So it's not where there's an intimate relationship, but the older adult is vulnerable and oftentimes depend upon someone else for their care. And so that's how we make the distinction.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Mary Lynn.
Sorry, there's a delay, so I apologize, Mary, if I interrupted.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for that explanation, because I often think of it being still under the realm of domestic violence if it's a child who is hurting a parent or financially exploiting a parent. In my brain, that still falls under domestic violence. So I appreciate you clarifying that.
Well, and there are people, especially at the national level, they want to, I'll just give you my personal opinion, is they want to tag on to domestic violence. And so they say that elder abuse is actually domestic violence. But there really is, there's a difference in the dynamics, I think, between the two.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do any of our other council members have any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, again, thank you, Jody, for your presentation. Next on the agenda is Teen Dating Violence and Awareness Month update. The council will hear from two speakers who will discuss how their organizations and cities recognized February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Hold on just a second, because I just lost my notes. Let me figure out how I can get back there. Here we go. Sorry about that. Noah Snyder, Community Engagement Manager for Bloom 365, and Vice Chair Christine Ellis, Council Member with the City of Chandler, will present separately on these items. And we'll start with Bloom 365 update. Welcome, Noah.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Not to call you out, Donna, but I think I see it in here too. So feel free to jump in where you see fit as well, because I do think I see it in here. Hi, everyone. I'm Noah. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Bloom 365. Super exciting to see some familiar faces and some new faces. So we can go to the next slide. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Bloom 365, but we are a Phoenix-based organization, but we do provide our programs and services Arizona-wide. Our mission is to prevent abuse before it happens. So we do take a preventative approach to interpersonal violence, teen dating violence, domestic violence, things like that. We have a vision for safe and healthy relationships for everyone. Every young person deserves a safe and healthy relationship and friendship. And then our goal is to uproot abuse in a generation. Specifically, we work with Generation Z, so 11 to 24-year-olds, and we can go to the next slide. Our goal centers around our Big, Hairy, Audacious goal, or our BHAG 2030. And our BHAG 2030 is to educate and activate 10% of Gen Z youth and their trusted adult allies by the year 2030. So that's a pretty audacious goal, but we know that we can reach it. And one of the ways that we do that is through our First Friday campaigns in awareness months. And we can go to the next slide, because one way we do that is through Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which we'll talk about in a little bit, our impact. But first I want to share with you our big why. We can go to the next slide. So our big why is that, and I don't think the slide is in here, but over 50% of Maricopa County youth in a Bloom 365 survey shared that they had experienced some type of victimization, whether that was emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. And a national study in 2019 shows that only 9% of teens who experience a victimization will seek help from an adult. And we know from a Bloom 365 survey that instead 80% of youth would rather tell a friend, someone their age, a peer, about what they're experiencing before they go to an adult. So we at Bloom 365 work with youth to empower them through paid internships, to be that peer on campus that they can go to talk about these things, to find resources, etc. And we do those through our First Friday campaigns, as well as those internships. So we can go to the next slide. And so one of the ways we do that is through our Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month campaign, which is in February. We can go to the next slide. And because of that 9% number, we really try to make sure that a lot of schools in the area have a lead peer advocate. And these are paid internships only in Arizona, and they're volunteer if they're outside of that area. And a lead peer advocate, the number one thing they need to have is they need to be passionate about uprooting abuse in a generation. And they need to be someone that is easy to follow, because they're going to be someone that helps set those positive, healthy social norms on campus that redirect kind of the cultural norms in a positive, healthy way that does not tolerate interpersonal violence. They have a couple goals, which is to engage 10% of their campus or local community. So that really, harkens back to that 10% goal that we have organizationally, as well as they increase peer support and student and trusted adult collaboration. So a lot of times these lead peer advocates will work with advisors on campus, engage the teachers and staff on campus to participate in their campaigns, as well as their school administration. We can go to the next slide. So I want to share with you a little bit about the impact that youth have in these positions. So right now we have 15 high schoolers across Maricopa County that have signed agreements with our organization to be lead peer advocates for the upcoming school year. And then we have 293 high schoolers across Maricopa County that were engaged in outreach activities and prevention education in February 2024, which was Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So that means 293 students were engaged in that Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month campaign. We can go to the next slide. Across the board, the lead peer advocates in all of those schools engaged 32 volunteer peer advocates, which are essentially their club members. So that was a really great number to see that many students volunteer their time for such an important cause and awareness topic. We had 19 Maricopa County schools or organizations that engaged with us as an organization through TDVAM activities, and these are led by the students as well as our adult staff. We can go to the next slide. I know that some of y'all in here attended our first annual Empathy Awards, and we're so grateful for that. We got the opportunity to host our first teen interpersonal violence prevention summit virtually, as well as the day after that, host our first Empathy Awards. And I want to share with you the amazing impact that we made with that. So we can go to the next slide. We can go to the next one. So through our education and our Empathy Awards, I want to share a little bit about the impact. So 220 Maricopa County teens completed one or more education lessons on teen dating violence prevention and healthy relationship promotion, and that's with our educational programming. That is our 7-dose curriculum. You may be familiar with that. And then within that 220 number, 45% of teens disclosed experiencing a victimization, whether that was teen dating violence, domestic violence, sexual violence, emotional abuse, anything like that. We can go to the next slide. So our impact, I wanted to also include some qualitative numbers in this, because we can look at the numbers all day, but I really want us to also focus on the stories of the people that we serve and that are, feeling the impact. So one participant in our advocacy shared that they typically feel isolated from other people, but because of the advocacy at our organization, they feel like they have a place that they can openly share their feelings. And I think that really shows the great impact of the advocates on our team, as well as the students and the young people that engage with our services. The next kind of testimonial that a young person shared was that, and this was during one of our educational programs, was that I learned it's harder to leave an abusive relationship than I thought it was. The power and control a person has over them can stop someone from doing what's best for them. And so, again, I really want us to focus also not only on the numbers and how many people are reached, but also that qualitative information of how students' perspectives are shifting, how those cultural norms are shifting. So I think that's about it, because I know we have a very limited time to speak, so we can wrap up and go to the next slide. So I wanted to end today's kind of presentation with a call to action for everyone to wear teal tomorrow. So if you don't know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and just like with February and Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, it's we do an awareness campaign for people to wear the respective color on the first Friday, which is tomorrow. So wear teal tomorrow. We can go to the next slide. And here you can buy your teal t-shirt from Bloom 365 or any other merch that you would like. I know it's tomorrow, so it may not be totally possible, but for maybe next year, go ahead and grab that consent teal t-shirt. And then we can go to the final couple slides. Here you can grab our social media and social engagement toolkit, where it will give you a lot of things you can post to engage your communities virtually, raise awareness, etc. And then the final slide. And here, feel free to give your feedback on the presentation, ask any questions that you might not have right now, but maybe in the future, or let us know any thoughts you have. Other than that, any questions, or Donna, if you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to as well.
Thank you, Noah. Awesome job.
Thank you, Noah. That was excellent. I turned off my camera because I'm having some connectivity issues and everybody keeps stalling. So I was hoping that would help. But thank you so much for that presentation. Do any members, I'll put it out one more time. Does any members have any questions or comments before we move to our next presentation? Seeing none, thank you again. Vice Chair Ellis will now provide an update on how the City of Chandler recognized February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month and Prevention Month. Welcome, Vice Chair Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. Ms. Nora, thank you so much for a thorough understanding of what Bloom 63 is doing and 363. It's really amazing to see the impact that is happening with all of you in the Phoenix area, more like the Phoenix metropolitan. I like the fact that you're not only just locally into Phoenix, but you throughout the whole area. So I want to take a moment to thank our chair for coming to Chandler and to spend a few minutes with us into the chamber when we were going to do this proclamation. For this month, what we have decided to do here in Chandler was issue a proclamation on February 5th at the Chandler City Council meeting. As you can see, that's the picture right now. We had some of our members from our commission accepted that by the Domestic Violence Commission. And we also had someone from the Child Abuse Organization that's going to be putting a lot of flags up into Chandler also from the Exchange Club, which I'm a member of, also be part of that recipient of the proclamation. At the National League of Cities this year, as so many of the other council members that are on this call probably were there in Washington, I was appointed to the NLC Human Development Federal Advocacy Committee. And when I attended there at NLC, what we did from March 10 to March 13 was that through our whole process, engage with our congressional delegations to advocate for our communities, whether it was concerning this domestic violence month and mental health also for teens around this time. The Teen Violence City Council policy discussion that we are in the process of doing right now with the city is that we are proposing at this time an ordinance to address the unruly gathering of minors. We found out that a lot of time these things get out of control, and parents who have allowed other kids to come to their home, now they don't have a recourse and they don't know what to do. And a lot of time they are scared to call the police because when they get there, then they are responsible for what's happening. Well, so they should be responsible because it's their home and it's their property. And so we want to enforce measures to hold property owners and habitual offenders accountable. What does that mean? I'm a part of the subcommittee for this part also. And when I asked that question, I said, so what does an habitual offender looks like? Well, it's someone who constantly having things at their home, and every time the police come, they will either discard and everything, but they will have it continually again over and over again. So by that time, we will make sure that the council ordinance will put something up where there will be a criminal penalty, provide a civil and criminal up to $2,500 fine or 6 months jail time or probation if they are found guilty for those kinds of things. And then this afternoon, one of the things we are going to try to discuss in our work session is not only this ordinance that I just described, but also discuss the brass knuckles that we found some of the kids here in Chandler have been victim on. not only in Chandler, but also in cities approximately next to us. Those things are happening. So we're going to be talking about regulation to prohibit the sale and possession by minors. I don't think that we can actually stop people from buying them or go online and buy them, but the discussion is to try to put some parameters. In other words, when I sat down with my peers and my colleagues and we were discussing this, it's not that we're trying to prevent people, but we're trying to use every tool that we have in our toolbox to put parameters around things to give people a way out or to help children to make better decisions. Now, another thing that we are doing is the child abuse prevention. The proclamation was issued April 1st at the Chandler City Council meeting, and it was accepted by the Chandler's Domestic Violence Commission and the Exchange Club, as I said earlier. But the Field of Hope that I described earlier, it's a part for the Exchange Club. It's going to be, the ceremony will be on April 14 at 6 p.m. in the downtown Chandler. So what we do is that every year, this organization, we come out and it was done in different part of Chandler before, but the last 2 years we brought it in the park, downtown Chandler, AJ Park, right there where we put up flags that are the colors of the organization. And every one of those flags have a little hat on top of them representing those children that have been victim of domestic violence or child abuse. And so we go, last year we had about 195 kids that we had identified. And then we light candles that we put at the bottom of each one of those poles. And then we stand there and have a moment of reflection, realizing that this is something that we as a community and a people can stop. So as long as we can bring ourselves together, we'll be able to do it. So it's called the Field of Hope dedication ceremony. It will be on April 14 and at 6 p.m. in downtown Chandler. I will encourage every one of our members that are on the line right now to make an effort to come and join us downtown Chandler, because there will be a time where we will have other organizations come and talk about what they are doing in that space. Our commission will also be there and explain what they are doing to help and support those organizations, specifically things that are happening in high school, how to report, and then we let people go home with some information with them so that they can report. The last thing that I would like to report that we're doing here in Chandler is the Domestic Violence Commission activities that are coming up soon. The training by Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, that's ongoing. So we continually trying to empower people through education, letting them understand that education will definitely break the silence, and it will also break the chain and the cycle of the abuse. And then we'll have other proclamation for teen dating violence, sexual assault, and child abuse prevention. Those proclamations will ongoing. And then the planning for domestic violence outreach events, we're working on some more things that we will be putting out to make sure that we continue to let the whole team know about it, and then so that we can let you be part of what we're doing here in Chandler. Lastly, is the planning for domestic violence awareness event in the fall of 2024. Last year, we did such an amazing job. Vice Mayor Benton was there, and our previous chair was on site, and we have made proclamation, and we did it in the middle of our courtyard this last year, and we will do it again. But this time, I will hope that we will draw so many other of our elected officials to be down here making a statement saying that we're saying no to this violence, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's teen violence, period, and we do not want it in our community. And so that's what I had to report today. I'm looking forward to work with all of you for this upcoming 2024 event, where we're going to turn our city hall purple, and we will ask everybody that will come to make sure that they were purple, or we will have lights for you so that we'll have a visual and talk about it. If you have a great story that you would like to tell us, not only about being a victim, but also about being a thriver and someone who have overcome this dreaded thing thing, please let us know. We would love to have you on our panels to be able to talk more and let people know that there is hope. There is hope for them in this arena. So thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to bring this report forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Ellis. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing in Chandler. Do any of our members have any questions or comments? All right, well, thank you so much. We'll proceed on then to item number 6. The next agenda item was requested by council membership regarding the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Johns Hopkins School of Public Health cites that firearms contribute to domestic violence, with over half of all intimate partner homicides committed with firearms. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act makes various changes to federal firearm laws. Andrew Lefevre, Executive Director of the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission, will lead a discussion on this topic and share information regarding possible funding opportunities related to the work in domestic violence.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Andrew,
Can you hear me
the
okay? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. So I bring you good tidings from the great state of Tennessee today. So I'm appearing from very long distance. The Congress passed and the president signed in 2021 the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was, as described, how do we as a country take a closer look at the role of firearms in community violence, in intimate violence, and what can we do about that? Primarily today, I'd like to talk about what that has meant in the state of Arizona in regards to some funding opportunities and funding that has flowed into the state. So the Criminal Justice Commission serves on behalf of the state as the appointed state administering agency for federal criminal justice grant funds that come through the state in primarily formula grant form. And the Bipartisan Communities Act provided funding in a formula grant, is similar to what is done every year in the Byrne grant to all states that applied for it. We had applied. We received the first 2 years of funding this first cycle, and we anticipate 3 more years of funding to come through this program into Arizona at about $3 million a year for the next 3 years. So I wanted to kind of just talk to you a little bit about what that program is looking like in the state, the kind of things that we're focusing on trying to fund program-wise so that you and your respective jurisdictions and nonprofits can take notice and possibly consider applying for grants, because it is open to both government entities and nonprofits. So the Arizona Safer Community Investment Program, as we're calling it, so AZ-SCIP Crisis Intervention Program, was formed in Arizona based on receiving these funds. We had to create an advisory board that it takes a look at the kind of direction of funding for the program. So it has a lot of our normal commission members on it, but we had to make sure that we added some mental health folks, some folks that dealt with more specifically with victims issues than normally sit on our commission, public defenders and whatnot, to make sure we had a well-rounded view of the criminal justice system. And the primary goals in regards that the advisory board came up with in Arizona in order to try to address this violence in our communities relating to guns is 3 main goals. So mitigate gun violence in Arizona. So how do we decrease the population that's at risk of instigating gun violence? How do we minimize the vulnerable populations that typically become gun violence victims? And how do we enhance the availability and accessibility of crisis intervention services to high-risk individuals? And then how do we augment public awareness and understanding of gun violence and its preventative measures? So that's our first goal that we have. The second goal was, how do we preserve lives by diminishing the prevalence of gun-related fatalities in Arizona? So how can we decrease the occurrences of gun-related homicides? And how can we minimize the incidences of gun-related suicide or gun-involved suicides in the state, as was the focus that they came up with there? And then the third goal that they came up with was how do we decrease the frequency of gun-related injuries? So how can we reduce the number of gun-related injuries resulting from deliberate shootings and minimize accidental injuries due to firearms? The focus of the funds that came in through this SKIP program were really designed not to be reactive in nature, but really designed to be more preventative and provide interventions beforehand. So the board met, they set these overarching kind of guidelines or goals for the state. We opened up our first grant cycle in October of last year. We received a number of applications that came in to the board for review and consideration. I think we received 11 and a couple that were a little bit outside of the scope of what the board had said they wanted to fund or were just really identified as reactive in nature and not that preventative in nature. But ultimately, the board did approve 7 projects totaling $1.75 million that went out in this first round of funding that we submitted to the Department of Justice for their final authority on. And that ran the range from a lot of the focus is on what can the courts do better, what kind of specialty courts can be set up that or programs within the court system. So the Administrative Office of the Courts received a significant amount of funding. We also funded a nonprofit, Melabiz Community Hub, which I think is in either Chandler or Gilbert, was one of our nonprofit members. We at the commission are actually going to be partnering with Cox Media to do a gun safety and gun violence media public awareness campaign for folks. And we think that's an important message that needs to get out and very much meets that preventative and intervention model. And then some local programs in the Buckeye Police Department, the Pima County Attorney's Office also had put in some great programs. So I bring this to your attention today because we are going to be doing probably a second round for just this initial pot of money, but know for sure that we're anticipating another round of funding coming through in this next grant cycle from the feds. And short of something changing dramatically at the congressional level, at least another 2 years beyond that of funding that we could have available for local communities and nonprofits to partner on getting the message out about guns, keeping guns out of the hands of folks that shouldn't have them. Domestic violence, certainly, as you noted, Madam Chair, is one of those areas where firearms plays a heavy role in violence. So what can we be doing about that to increase the awareness of it? You know, for our police departments, some of this money could be used for expanding their ability to safely store and handle firearms if firearms do need to be collected for some reason, so that they have an ability to store them safely and then return them after the fact if that is what has to happen. But you know, the nice thing about these programs and the way they come down from the congressional level is that oftentimes they're very broadly defined on what the funding can be used for. So that's both a good and a bad thing because it often opens up a lot of opportunities, but it also creates some challenges then about how do you then rein that back into something that is manageable and meets the goals of the program as they're defined by our state advisory board. But I'm very happy, Madam Chair, to make sure that we provide links to Kelly when the new funding cycles or grant application periods are going to be open so that folks can be aware of that. Our goal, quite frankly, is to get as much and many of these dollars out into our local communities as possible so that folks can continue or try to do new things that maybe they hadn't done before, but really just to get these dollars out where they can meet the road and get the work done. And with that, I'll be happy to try and answer any questions. And I apologize for being responsible for the controversial part of our program today based on the public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Lefevre. Do any of the members have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Please, Councilmember.
Vice Chair Ellis. You talked about getting the money into the community to different organizations so that they can appropriately do what they need to do concerning safety and things like that. How do they come about doing that? How do they interact with you and get, for example, if I wanted the police department, is it there or the police department itself, or does it need to be like a nonprofit organization that reach out to you, or is it going to be like a grant? How does that work?
Certainly. Thank you for that question, Madam Vice Chair and members. It is a grant program that we're running. So an organization would have to submit an application for consideration by the SCIP Advisory Board for funding. So again, we have a pretty robust and informative grant process that we have, with plenty of training videos about how you navigate our system to submit a grant. And we'll typically do a pre-application webinar, so in case folks have questions, they can try and get those answered up front. But we do it as a grant cycle. So that would be the way that folks would do it. So that's why I said I'll make sure that if I know we're going to be announcing the grant coming available again, that I get that information to Kelly so that she can get that out to all of you all to review as a consideration for trying to get dollars into your communities.
Great. Thank you so much for the explanation. That makes a lot of sense to be ahead of the and get ready. So when it's time, then we will know exactly who to give that information to so that they can hit the ground running with it.
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Kelly, I saw your hand up.
Madam Chair, I was just going to share that prior to coming to work at MAG, I was the state suicide prevention specialist for the state Medicaid agency. And the largest population of individuals who die by suicide in Arizona are older adults. And oftentimes they have alcohol in their systems. And if you spend time with their family members and ask questions about the days that preceded the terrible act that then occurred, many of them could see that this was coming and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with the firearms in the home. And they did not want to sell them. They didn't want to get rid of them permanently, but they didn't have another option for what to do with their firearms for this period of time. And they didn't always feel safe giving them to someone else. One of the best practices in suicide prevention is something called safe storage, which has been implemented in many other states where police departments actually have a place, or other community organizations have a place where you can go and safely lock up your own firearms for a period of time until your behavioral health crisis has resolved. And suicidology, the act of when people become suicidal, it is often a brief period of time that can always be addressed. But if there are firearms involved, it is often lethal. And so when Andy was speaking about this, I was thinking about the opportunity that some of our community partners may have in coordination with our first responders to put some of these safe storage practices in place in our communities, especially in our communities with lots of older adults where they may be most used. And again, it's not a way to in any way remove someone's firearm or right to own a firearm. It's just simply removing it from their immediate environment for a brief period of time until the behavioral health crisis is resolved.
Kelly, thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that.
Yeah, Madam Chair and members, and I think there's a lot of opportunities within our veterans community for that exact thing as well. You know, many of our veterans are firearms owners just because of the nature of their service and the tools that they use. And I think Kelly's right. You know, the window for that action occurring and having a tool available where it's much more likely that you're going to succeed is such that, you know, some of it is just making folks aware that there are options available and on how they can navigate that process. So again, there's no this is the way it has to be done, but I think there are a lot of opportunities to get the messaging out in advance and help provide information and tools to folks in advance of those circumstances so that they are more aware of them. You know, prevention, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I think that's that was the thought with getting these dollars out there, which is if we can figure out better ways to intervene up front, you know, we hopefully resolve or we prevent a lot of this stuff happening on the back end.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I did not see anybody else's hands up. Oh, hello, former Chair Norton. Go ahead.
Hi, actually, I want to thank Kelly for mentioning that about what you did with the safe storage of firearms ahead of time. And I've never heard of that, but that's something I think that we could each probably get with our own departments and probably work something out. And I would not think that that would require additional funding. I think they probably already have the ability to do that. So thank you for sharing that, because that I think is real vital information, something we can all do. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if you would humor me for just one more moment that I could add on a public health
Sure, Anita.
soapbox on this topic.
Absolutely.
Older adults often are so what's also interesting to me about this possible grant opportunity for our state and our communities is that it sounds like it can also fund education. And so at the city level, or perhaps at a utility level, or even through libraries or other ways that you're regularly communicating with older populations or with veteran populations, there could be a campaign around what are the warning signs and what do you do in those situations to try to help reduce these sorts of deaths. I don't think that information is always widely available. And I do think that behavioral health crisis in particular, especially with older adults, folks don't know where to turn. They don't know who to call for help. And so there's just a lot of opportunity here with this funding to try to help address keeping communities safer.
And Madam Chair, I'm pretty sure that we're going to try and continue our partnership with Cox Media over the next couple of cycles as well. So messages like that would be great to know and work on, and have them help build into their overall campaign that we can work on with them. So happy to talk with you a little bit more about that, Kelly.
And in thinking about those safe spaces and domestic violence, if there was a way that individuals who are in a domestic violence relationship who may see that things are going down that road of violence, that they would also have the opportunity to make the decision to take the weapons out of the home until they're able to calm down, get some counseling. I think that would be a great opportunity as well in domestic violence. So again, thank you, Andrew, Andy. I don't see anybody else's hands up, so we'll move to our next item.
Thank you,
Our next
Madam
item
Chair.
is number 7. Thank you. Our next item is number 7, misdemeanor domestic violence protocol model. Kelly Williams from MAG Human Services, the MAG Human Services Director, will provide an update on the community feedback regarding their use of the protocol model, including survey results, and lead discussion on the creation of a work group to complete an annual review. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did send out a survey to more than 300 stakeholders who work in some capacity or advocates in some capacity for individuals experiencing domestic violence or trying to prevent domestic violence. We had 14 responses, which I actually thought was pretty great. Most people gave really thoughtful feedback about the protocol, how it is being used or is not being used. We also received in-depth edits from our colleagues from Sam Hinchy, who sits on our board here, and also our colleagues at ACES DB regarding some editing changes they would suggest. Again, the protocol has not been updated since 2019. It does need a good editing at a minimum. It does need some clearer language to be placed in it. But what I would tell you is, as your MAG staffer, I do not have subject matter expertise in this, and I can help lead the conversation, but I do not work regularly with individuals experiencing domestic violence, and I don't feel qualified to be your primary voice on this project. So I am not a member of the Regional Domestic Violence Council, so I cannot propose anything in this situation, but my suggestion would be that there be a work group created perhaps for a brief period of time where we could come together and perhaps even ask experts from Bloom 365 and ACES DV and other DV organizations to participate to help us take a good look at this and then bring it back to you again for review and put this on an annual calendar for the Regional Domestic Violence Coalition or Council. So we don't discover it again in 3 years and realize it's as out of date as it is.
Thank you, Kelly, for that update. I appreciate that. I would like to see it be an annual review. I believe it's important if we want people to utilize it And it needs to be relevant and address the issues that people are facing today. And I will ask if any of our members have any questions or comments before I make a comment at the end. Not hearing anything. Kelly, if we wanted to proceed with creating that subgroup,
Madam Chair, you would ask
do
for
we have
someone
to-
to make a motion.
do we have to
and-
take an action on it today, or do we have to?
No, you do not have to take an action on it today if you don't want to. We can definitely wait, but it would, the creation of work group would come through a motion and a second and a vote. And then MAG staff would organize, through a Google poll or a Doodle poll or one of those, a time that would be best for those who are interested in participating. To be transparent, I'm not entirely sure why we would wait.
Right, no, I was just gonna ask if there's a motion from any of our council members.
I'll make a motion to establish this work group to look at the DV protocols.
Thank you.
I'll
Mary.
second.
Thank you. I think that was Anita who seconded. Thank you. Kelly, is this just an I vote again?
It is, although we would again ask if everybody would turn on their cameras, please, so I don't have to call on you after the fact, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. We'll give everybody a moment to turn on their cameras, seconds after people have the opportunity. All right, there's been a motion and a second to create a subcommittee to look at reviewing the misdemeanor protocols. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Kelly, is there any vote that you need to ask about? Anybody who didn't turn on their camera?
I will ask and we'll just see how this goes. Melissa Thomas? Joshua Clark? Zach
Aye.
Altman? Oh, thank you. Zach Altman, I think I saw you there for a second.
Yep, aye.
Okay, thank you. Christy Hahn McDonald? And Emily Karen?
My camera is on and I was on the last time, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah,
Oh, there you are. It looks like I've got you in here twice. Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the motion passes. So MAG staff will move forward in scheduling the work group, getting word out to you all. If you are not the appropriate person to participate, or you have someone else who you think should participate, either on your staff or in your network, please feel free to help get the word out. I think on a project like this, the more voices, the better.
Thank you, Kelly. I would agree. And one other thing that I'd like to bring to council's awareness is that we had a member of the public reach out to us who is a victim of domestic violence, who has a traumatic brain injury, and her experience in the system was not great. And she continues to struggle to get the assistance she needs and people to understand what she's going through, having had a traumatic brain injury and deal with communication. So one of the things I'd like our subcommittee to look at is if there is anybody with subject matter expert on putting together in the protocol, working with individuals with traumatic brain injuries, or the only word I can think of right now is divergent, but there's another word that goes with that. And if anybody knows what word I'm thinking of, please feel free to jump in. I would like them to also come and see if they can put their mark on this as well, so that we make sure that we're meeting the needs of those individuals and making suggestions to police, courts, and advocates of how to best work with individuals with traumatic brain injuries. Andy, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for your knowledge, and I am not the subject matter expert in this area as well, but I actually, 2 years ago, I ran a project for the state of Colorado that was looking at traumatic brain injuries and victimizations and how to do exactly what you just said. And they put together a whole task force and produced a report. So I can see if I can figure out where that is, and that may be a good resource for the group to look at on it, because it was all about that. How do we help those folks navigate through the system and make folks within your prosecutors and your police aware that you're probably going to have a much different interaction with somebody if they've had a traumatic brain injury because of the crime.
Absolutely. Thank you. We would appreciate you looking into that. And then I know from speaking with this individual that one of the things that she requested that she struggled getting anybody to really support is just having an advocate who would take the time that she needed to be able to listen. That is, people just weren't taking the time to give her opportunity to have her voice heard. And we're making assumptions because of some of her communication styles that she was being challenging as a victim. And I think we've all heard, as in victim services, that sometimes victims get this label of being challenging or difficult, and really needing to look a little bit deeper into what that is and not just taking things at face value. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to do that. And Kelly, I appreciate the staff's willingness to put this subcommittee together. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, I would just add one thing to when we met with her. One of her major complaints was that, and she's been going through this for over a decade, at first glance, people think that she's substance using because she often, her words are very slow in coming, and she really struggles to put her thoughts together. And it's because of her traumatic brain injury. But she spends more time explaining herself, explaining that she's not actually substance using and that she's got this traumatic brain injury. And by then she's often lost the person in helping them with her domestic violence concern. It was very eye-opening to the DV concerns of individuals with physical and developmental disability as well.
Thank you, Kelly, for sharing that part.
Madam Chair, this is Andy. Part of the process is folks don't often realize they have a brain injury in the first place. So they're questioning why, what is going on with me? Why am I having such a hard time? And some of what this group discussed in Colorado was the earlier we can identify this may be the problem, and they can begin to understand what it is, and folks understand how to interact with them, it changes the way they navigate through the system in the first place. I did find that report and send it to Kelly to distribute. So.
Oh, you just went on mute, Andy.
Sorry, I said I found the report from Colorado and I sent it to Kelly, so she should have that to distribute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I did remember that other word. It's neurodivergent. Oh, I got it. I always love it when my memory does not fail me completely. Vice Chair Ellis, was there something you'd like to add?
Yes, I was going to ask, is it okay to have probably police or fire being part of this subcommittee if we wanted to invite some of them in the community to be part? Because I know that they are first responders, and usually majority of the intake that's going to follow someone is taken by such a person. So if it's established from day one that the encounter, they understand what that person is going through, or they see the signs that they can refer or make information available for the next person in line, then it might really go better into the process of helping this person. So just a question for you, Ms. Kelly, if it's okay. If I couldn't be part, I could try to get someone from either our fire department or from our police, or need both of them to be involved.
I think that would be excellent, Vice Chair Ellis. Thank you. And Madam Chair, I don't know if you saw, but Sam had her hand up.
Thank you. I did not. Sam, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask if we can invite someone from Barrow Neurological Institute, because they have a DV program that they work with. They have MOUs with programs here, mainly in Maricopa County. And I think that they would be really great to have at the table during this discussion. And I feel like we have law enforcement on this for like that we can, like, hopefully they want to come. And I also feel like there's also like prosecution or like that could also come to the subcommittee that would be really good for this. I don't think it should just be advocate voices. So I agree with Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Sam. Sorry for interrupting. I think if you look at the protocol, you'll see that there are different sections based on all of that, police, as well as prosecution. of court systems, and I would like to see members of all of those come back together, look at those sections and look at that as well. I was also thinking of Barrows and trying to reach out to them to see if they would participate, because I know that they have done a lot of work around domestic violence and brain injury. So I think that they will be a valuable partner in this. So thank you. Did I miss anybody else? It does not appear that I did. All right. So next is future requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests from council members for an item on future agenda? On the future agenda. That wasn't even a sentence.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, Vice Chair.
then maybe we could actually have a report come back to us regarding the subcommittee. If we will have time to be able to put all the infrastructures together, that will be a great thing for Ms. Kelly or someone from her team to kind of bring us to speed where we are in the process.
Thank you. We'll get that on the agenda. Excellent. Finally, are there any comments from the committee?
Madam Chair, I know Lupe Bendine has.
Are there any comments or announcements? Please.
Thank you, Chair DC. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to give a really quick update on the Crisis Workforce Work Group. We will be attending the Jobs for Arizona Graduates Career Development Conference next Thursday, April the 11th at the Mesa Convention Center. This is a convention that has an attendance of about 700 high school students. So we'll be out there all morning. We have a table reserved and ready to go. Councilwoman Norton will be assisting also. She will be there with me. And if anybody else would like to join us to give us an hour or two, please contact Kelly. Let her know, and then she can get with me, and I can just put you down on the list for coming to join us. So I just wanted to give a brief update on the committee. We're going to be providing information on careers and educational opportunities in advocacy. Okay, thank you.
Wow, excellent opportunity. Thank you for sharing that with us. We'd be interested in hearing maybe at the next meeting how that went, and how many individuals you were able to chat with. Anita, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, and on something
No,
different.
just waving.
No, I just we had here in El Mirage, and I want to thank Noah at Bloom 365 and Donna for helping to put it together. Last month, 14 Dating Violence Awareness, we had an elephant in the room conversation that was done by Noah. She came up and presented that at our library. Unfortunately, I contracted COVID just prior to it, so I was not able to attend. But I spoke with several people. We only had about 2 weeks notice of advertising for the event, and so it was a low turnout. But those I spoke with, they really thought it was extremely informational. They really appreciated the information that was given, and so that was something Noah, thank you. I understand you did a great job, and I spoke with several that had attended, and they really enjoyed it. And thank you, Donna, as well, because Donna, we had getting our advertising out was, I think, kind of one of the things that resulted in the low turnout, but it was excellent information. And I attended the summit that Bloom 365 did earlier in the month, and I was just, I did all 3 days, and I was just astounded at the information that was provided. She had a speaker, Dr. Stroud, that spoke, and others. And I've been to many domestic violence summits. And each time there's more information, but this one was just so dynamic. And I know it wasn't recorded, which is unfortunate because I wish it's something that we could repeat or show the exact of what everything that was covered on it, but it was excellent. I would encourage everyone to attend if they have another one like that, to attend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And Teen Dating Mag, so obviously us to post that we can get out to teens about your continued training opportunities and your next summit. Please let us know. We'd happy to be able to share that with our committee, as well as make sure that that gets on the MAG website. We appreciate all the work that you're doing for prevention and helping our young adults learn how to have healthy relationships. And when they find themselves in a spot that is not healthy, knowing who they can turn to and providing that community for them. So again, thank you so much for all that you do. Any other comments or any share outs? All right, with that, thank you all for attending today. The next meeting of the Regional Council will be held on June 6th, today's meeting.